All right, so here we have Drew and Valerie. Now, I didn't use their real name, so Drew is my name, Valerie's my wife's name, and we're going to use Smith as a last name. I know that's very unassuming, but Drew and Valerie Smith. Drew is going to take Social Security at 66 years old. His gross monthly benefit is going to be $2,500. Valerie, at 66, her gross monthly benefit is going to be $2,000. They're not going to have any pension, so they're just going to have Social Security. Now, remember, they're retiring at 55, and we're going to delay Social Security for 12 years, really 11 and a half years until they're 66 years old. In assets, they've got $2.55 million spread between 401ks, 403bs, IRA, and some money in the bank, okay? So we've got $2.5 million. Now, here's what I wanted to do differently today. I get a lot of comments saying you run your rates of return or the money in the market at too high a scenario, because normally I use 6 or 7%. Remember, S&P has averaged 10% over the long term, 8% with inflation. So I always say, hey, let's go to 6. That's 2% behind. But this time, I'm going to run their investments at 4%. Actually, I need to change that to 4 real quick. There we go. We're going to run the rates of return at 4% for their 401k, their 403b, and their IRA. All right, so that means over the long term of their retirement, they're only going to make 4% on their money. Make sense? Now, here's what we got. In expenses, this is where I wanted to just show you a little bit of a deeper dive. They've got a current monthly expense of $5,000. Okay, that's just their regular mortgage, utilities, everyday spending, going to the grocery. But here are some things that they wanted to do with their money. What are their goals? What are their needs? What are their wants? This is it right here, okay? They want to travel for 15 years. So they want to travel every year from 55 to 70. Now, they might not do that every year. Obviously, COVID in 2020 threw everybody off. You know, they didn't get to do anything. And maybe they'll have a situation where they won't be able to travel in a year. But they want to plan for that. That's what we're doing. We're doing retirement planning. So for them, they're going to travel for 15 years. It's a $5,000 outflow, and it's going to be annual. So it's going to be from this year for the next 15 years. They have a daughter's wedding coming up next year, and they want to give $50,000 towards that wedding. It's a one-time expense, okay? And they have their mom's long-term care, which they're paying $5,000 a month. We're only going to do this for 5 years. Mom's not in very good shape. She's probably not going to make it 5 years, but we are going to plan on her being around for 5 years. Again, we hope she is, but if she's not, then that money is just going to stay within the plan because we're always going to try to plan for the worst and hope for the best, okay? Now, here's where what I do is different from other retirement advisors, other financial advisors, especially when you watch on YouTube. Let's dig into the taxes. So remember, these people have $2.5 million. So in your mind, you're thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to be in the top tax rate. They're going to get killed. Well, for them and what their needs are, let's go to 2022, a full year's worth of income real quick. They're actually only going to be in the 14.63% federal projected tax rate. Now, that's the current tax code. Obviously, that could change. If you're watching this in 2030, taxes are probably different. But for them, they start out in the 22% bracket, but because of deductions, they're in the 14% bracket. So taxes really aren't that bad for them, as if you're reading like the Wall Street Journal or Barron's or something like that. They're talking about the world coming in with taxes in retirement. Yeah, there are, but for them, it's not that bad. Now, projected state retirement rate in Florida is 0, so it's great. Live in a state with no state tax, boom, 0%. So here's where the rubber meets the road. Let's look at their retirement. Again, we're starting with $2.5 million. Remember that. We've got our monthly cash flow, mom's long-term care. We have our annual cash flows, our travel for 15 years, and our $50,000 coming out for daughter's wedding next year. If we scroll all the way to the bottom here, look at this. At 100 years old for both of them, they still have $967,000 saved for retirement. Now, let's look at where the tipping point is, and that's really where we try to go right here. At 80, they've been growing their assets 2.435, and that's really where it starts to go down. And a lot of that is because their monthly expenses are inflated, right? So now their monthly expenses, they went from $5,000. At 80, they're $11,164. And if you notice this, let me see if I can show this. They have forced RMDs. Now, what an RMD is at 72, you have to take out a required minimum distribution. Once you get into your 80s, it's 5, 6, 7%. And you guys know from watching this channel, if you're taking out more than 5, 6, 7% from your assets over time, boom, that's just going to come down. They're going to pay taxes. So that's why you see a little bit of a turning point at 80. So this is where we need to start planning and say, okay, are there adjustments that need to be made before we get to that 80-year mark, okay? So really, if they came to me and said, hey, Drew, can I retire? Which they did at 55. I would say, yeah, you can retire. Let me show you how you can do it. Let me show you how you can do your goals, your needs, your wants, just like you want. And let me show you where some ideas where we need to make adjustments so that when you do get to 90 and 100, you still have enough money to live off of. So I don't want you to have to get out of working when you're in your 90s. I mean, go back to work when you're in your 90s, okay?